single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another night of TC2 Traveling Couch Convos. And tonight's topic is going to be, let's keep it real about anxiety and depression. So I'm going to sit back and get a little relaxed tonight. I'm not going to get like too in depth into the conversation, but it was a topic I really wanted to discuss because of all the things I'm seeing right now that's going on in the world. We all have a lot of stresses on us. Every time you click on the news, somebody is dying, there's a car accident, some kind of tragedy that we have to deal with. Then a lot of us are going through different life changes that either, like myself right now, going through a transition with work, which is being very stressful. Ending a relationship is being very stressful because it's still a loss whether or not you and that person was able to see eye and eye. It's still a loss. Losing somebody, death in itself, is because it's so final and people have to go through their grieving process. It does cause a lot of stress, and the stress can start internalizing within inside of us to the point where it comes out looking like anxiety, and the end result sometimes is depression. A lot of times we come up with different methods to deal with it, or we just don't deal with it. A lot of times we don't have the coping skills that we need to deal with depression and anxiety. Especially a lot of times in the Black culture, we're taught that go pray on it, not to seek any type of therapy for whatever we're feeling or going through. So a lot of times we're told that it's all in your head. That's where it's at. You're just making this stuff up, and maybe if you sit down and pray on it and let it go, you'll be okay. The typical stereotypical thing for a Black woman, we have the Superman, Superwoman cape on our back, and we can conquer everything. But a lot of times we don't. And we can't. It's a lot sometimes that we get compounded on us day by day by day. And a lot of times if we don't have those proper coping mechanisms put in place for us to be able to deal with the things that we're dealing with from day to day to day, eventually it's going to take that one situation to make us go over the tail end. And it's easy because we are so stressed up. Our population now, everybody has to work more than 2 jobs. A lot of times, like myself, I'm a single mom. I'm dealing with everything on my own. I don't have really too much support. I'm blessed to have my mom in the house with me right now, and she does help me out a lot with my daughter. But outside of that, I don't get too much support, even with co-parenting with my daughter. So that can be stressful in itself. As I said, I'm going through a transition with work right now, and not the unknown, and feeling like I'm in a lurch right now and hanging in limbo because I don't know what the next step is going to be. And I think that's the scary part. But the bad thing about it, because I have kept internalizing it, I'm starting to see it coming out with anxiety. I'm starting to see where it's coming out now in a form of depression. So for me, I'm going to be honest with you guys, because I'm pretty much honest with you guys so far with my series, and I feel like transparency is the key, because that is my testimony to tell you what I've been through and how I've been able to get through it. And the same way I've gotten through it, I know the next person can get through it. And being able to be that beacon of light for somebody, they can realize, okay, yeah, you suffer from depression and anxiety, but as long as you get the necessary help that you need and put them in place, and you get those coping skills, anybody can manage any situation as tough as it can get. A lot of times we resort in using unhealthy measures when it comes to coping skills, such as drinking. And I'm not going to lie, I've been guilty about that. A lot of times I get stressed out. First thing I'm going to go get me a damn drink. But the problem with that yes, it may make you numb and pacify you for that moment. But the minute you are back out in the real world and you're not drinking or you're not doing the drugs and stuff, it's all those feelings that you had suppressed because you didn't want to deal with it. It's still going to come back. And guess what? That problem still is there. So I had to realize, and I took a step back and I'm like, yeah, you are doing a lot of drinking when you get depressed. And I have to watch myself because it's easy to do. Because some things you just want to numb out. You don't want to deal with this shit. You don't. So I do go ahead sometimes. And if I find myself getting stressed, I might drink more than what I usually do. And then when I find I'm doing that, that's when I know it's time for me to call my therapist. And yes, I have a therapist on deck. I have a really good therapist. Her name is Rita Clark. I have been going to her for the last 2 years. She is a no-nonsense therapist. She tells me how it is, whether I want to hear sometimes how it is. But when she needs to be more nurturing and for me when I need it at that point, she does. But for the most part, she has taught me some really good coping skills to get through a lot of the things that I have had to go through these last 2 years. And one of the things we had brought on the table was about my drinking and how to cope with that when I start getting stressed out. Another coping mechanism, unhealthy coping mechanism people might put in place too during the time that they're depressed is also sleeping a lot. It's nothing wrong with getting your normal 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but when you're going over that, or you're getting to the point that you're isolating yourself and you're not going out with other people and you're more reserved and you don't really want to go out, or you're sitting here, which this is when I know I'm getting in that space. I do a lot of binge TV watching and I sit up in the house. I isolate myself from my friends and family. I don't call anybody. Sometimes I might even put myself in a situation where I may block people because I just don't want to be bothered. So those are not healthy coping mechanisms to have when you're going through depression. Because for the main thing, you need a good support system around you. The more supportive people you have and they tell you things of affirmation and keep you empowered, it's going to move you past that dark cloud that may be hanging over you with the depression. And two, with the anxiety, if you start incorporating like physical activity. Now, that's one thing I know I haven't been doing, but I used to run a lot. And I used to notice that the more I ran, it helped out with my stress because when those endorphins kicked in, it made me feel so much better. And then too, just seeing like if I was starting out just doing a half a mile, then I get up to a mile. Then when I got up to 2 miles, that in itself made me feel better because I started seeing me accomplishing whatever I wanted to accomplish with running. But it also helped me not feel in such a sad space that I was in. So that helped me get through my depression. And it also helped me with my anxiety because sometimes I get panic attacks. So when I do get panic attacks, they can be bad. I've had panic attacks where my heart started racing so bad I had passed out. So knowing how to deal with that, that's why I really wanted to do this series this week about self-care, because a lot of times we get so caught up with everything else and everybody else that we're not taking care of ourselves the way we need to. So self-care is important. Part of self-care, getting up in the morning, even if you got to set your time a little bit earlier than what you normally get up, and maybe meditating, doing some breathing exercises, sometimes releasing that and letting that good air in, that good breath in, and letting all those dirty toxins out and all that stuff that's bogging you down out sometimes helps the soul. I think that's why right now, if you notice on Facebook, is so many people doing spiritual detoxes. And spiritual detoxes are amazing because I did a spiritual detox, I want to say back in the latter part of January going into February. And I did the Daniel's fast. And what it did, it helped me with detoxing the negative things that I was constantly thinking about. Like, this isn't going to work out. I'm not going to get this job. This project I'm working on, that's not going to pan out. It's always going to be this problem over here. But at least with that spiritual detox, and I'm reading the word, and I know it also for me, I can't talk about somebody else's spirituality. I can only talk about my own. But just reading the word, it helped me, uplift me, that I knew that God had my back. So in that comfort, that gave me the comfort to know that whatever I was dealing with, it was going to work itself out. So it also helped me recalibrate my brain and not always thinking negatively, because you also have to detox the brain sometimes. Because if we're constantly thinking negative, it's going to keep us in that depressed state. And then that's when the anxiety starts creeping in with the depression. Also, like I said, you want to definitely have a good support system around you. You can't have a Debbie Downer around you, because if you keep a Debbie Downer around you, you're always going to be in that space. And if you want to move past the space that you're in, that's why I said you have to have people in your life who's going to uplift you and make you feel good and positive about yourself. Try to, like I said, physical activities. If you're into the Bible and reading your Bible, do some scriptures each day. Sometimes if you journal, you can put those negative thoughts down on paper and just let it go. Or talk about what you want to see and how you're trying to work through your depression and anxiety, and what steps you want to take, Definitely, if you get to a really low place, you definitely want to get in touch with a mental health professional, so that they can help you with more coping skills to get you through whatever space that you're in. But those are some of the things that worked for me. You want to stay busy, because a lot of times if we don't stay busy and stuff, then the depression will really start kicking in more. So like I was saying, you want to keep your relationships with people. You don't want to block anybody out at that time. If you haven't spoken to a friend in a while, give them a call. Just shoot the breeze and see how they're doing. Maybe like one time I got into a meetup group when I knew I was getting in a space, and I saw I was starting to isolate myself from people. I started going to a meetup group. So we would go out to dinner every now and then, which I felt it really helped, and it worked out for me. Two, we have so many people who have different organizations and they need volunteers. Volunteer your time. That'll keep your mind off of things, because I do always believe what my grandmother always said to me: the idle minds are the devil's workshop. So meaning, if we're not doing anything and we're just sitting around and we have nothing to do with our day, it's just going to manifest whatever we're feeling and take it to a more negative level. And that will also increase the depression and make you feel worse than what you're already feeling. And like I said, we go back to thinking positive. If you got to write affirmations or have different types of quotes at your desk or on your refrigerator in the morning, or put it on your mirror, these things can keep you going, because even if we're not getting it from other people, let's give it to ourselves. That's why it's called self-care. I also have what you call set worry periods. So I know we're all going to go through whatever we're going to go through, but I give myself one day to cry it out, one day to do the isolation. But the next day I'm getting out this door. I'm going out in the world. I'm getting myself back engaged and stuff. And that might not always work and be a good thing to do, but for me that works, because sometimes I got to get whatever it is that's bothering me off of me, so I can move on and start seeing things in a different light and start looking things more positively. Also, people do like gratitude lists. So write a gratitude list especially if you're journaling. Write a gratitude list to yourself. Everything that you like and appreciate about yourself. And I know a lot of people do too, like blessing jars. Get a little Post-it pad each day. Write down what you are blessed for. Because if you start thinking about the good things that's going on in your life and the things that you want to see positive in your life, you're going to start not focusing on those things that are not going well in your life and the things that you may not have right now. And that's going to make you feel better. Put your problems into perspective. Meaning, will you really care about the present difficulty in a month or a year? So look at what's really going on. And that was something my aunt had told me during the time my daughter was having surgery. When my daughter was born, she was born with a Quaker anomaly. So right out the gate, the first 24 hours, she had to have 2 surgeries. Within that course of the year before her first birthday, she had to have 3 more major surgeries. And it was very stressful because the people that I thought were going to be a support system for me during that time really were not. I had a lot of people turning their back on me, a lot of people talking crap about me. Her godmother tried to raise money for me because unfortunately a lot of her surgeries were considered experimental, and so my insurance company did not cover a lot of stuff. So I had started running into debt with trying to pay my bills, and then my job, I had unfortunately coworkers that were going back and making it seem like I wasn't doing my job, which I was. So they really couldn't get from firing me because of that. But most of it was because they wanted me out because I was more out of work being at the hospital with my daughter than I was in work. So eventually I just took a leap out on faith and I left. But during that period of time, I was so freaking stressed out. And I just thought that it just would never end. And my aunt said, Famika, you got to put things in perspective. Do you think that these same problems that you're going to be dealing with are going to be the same problems in a month or even a year from now? And I said, no. I know once we get her past this stage and everything and whatever's going to happen will happen. So the lesson behind that, yeah, we all go through different storm periods in our life, different seasons that are a little bit more stormier than others, and we go through some highs and some lows. But when we go through the lows, we got to stay positive that we know coming out the other end things will work itself out. That saying, you too will get through this. You will. It seems like during the time you're going through it that it's the end of the world, but you will get through it. You just got to keep the mind frame that yes, I'm going through this right now, but it's not going to be forever. And then develop a stress relief toolkit, whatever that looks for you. Me, I've gotten back into doing photography. I've gotten back into doing my drawings and stuff. I like going out to trying out different restaurants and stuff. I have tried to get up more early in the morning to meditate. I want to get back to exercising again and get back in the gym. And I'm gotten a little bit more spiritual, and I do make sure I get up and I read my Bible every day and stuff. And when things are really stressing me out, part of my stress release toolkit, I do a lot of journaling, because sometimes I need to be able to go back and reflect where I might have been last year to where I'm at this year, because a lot of times where we think we might have been at last year was so like what we're going through right now might be so freaking terrible, but then we look at what we might have went through last year and we see the problems might not be as bad as we really think they are. If you like getting massages, go get a massage. They're not that expensive. Treat yourself to a massage. Go get a pedicure. Like I said, contact your friends. I like going to the movies. Go to the movies. These are just, you have to figure out what is going to be the best coping mechanism for you to put into your stress relief toolbox. Those are things that work for me. Doesn't work for everybody, but that's what works for me. So these are some, I'm going to just sum it up before I end the show tonight. So these are some of the methods that they're saying that we should incorporate into ways to cope when we're getting depressed. Develop a strong support network. So like I said, make sure the people that you're around you are going to be affirming, and they're going to be nurturing during the time you're going, and understanding, because a lot of times they could be all of that, nurturing and understanding, but then be telling you, oh, you'll be all right. So you want to make sure somebody is understanding of what you're going through. Also, improve your sleep. If you're noticing you're oversleeping, then that's a problem. And I would definitely contact my physician and let them know that, you're depressed at this point in time and you're finding you're sleeping more than what you normally do. So if you are, try to do things to keep you active until it's time for you to go to bed at a normal time. If you find that you can't sleep, then do things at night to like relax you. Maybe drink some chamomile tea. Sometimes I'll take a hot bath with some candles.